Considering the current prices of properties in Lagos and how fast these prices are rising, land of 10 million, before you know it is 15 million, house of 65 million, before you know it is 78 million. Now, is absolutely reasonable for a lot of people to be looking for distressed properties. Distressed properties are simply properties that are selling below the market value or actual value. Likely, maybe the sellers need funds, they are in emergency, and they just need cash as urgently as possible, and they want to sell that property. But in this episode of Meet the Property Guy, we'll be looking at it. Is it advisable to buy distressed properties here in Lagos? In case you are coming across a video like this for the first time, this is Meet the Property Guy property channel, and this is where we discuss everything real estate. Either I want to buy, invest, or sell a property. We share tips, guides, and advice on what to look out for, the different things to avoid, the risk attached, how to get your return on investment, and so on and so forth. So after watching this particular video, I also advise you go to our previous videos, previous episodes. There's just so many topics that we have covered already about investing, buying real estate, and so on and so forth. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is also another fantastic opportunity for you to finally subscribe and also join the family. So let's go into the topic. Is it advisable for you to buy distressed properties here in Lagos? Now, first thing first, why would someone want to sell a property on distress? Now, there are several reasons why sellers or an investor might want to sell a property on distress, and one of them might be that the person needs cash, wants to sell as urgently as possible, the person is in a financial emergency or financial crisis, and we just want to dispose that property just to raise enough funds for them to sort whatever financial mess that they are in. Now, one of the previous videos or previous episodes that I've done also was talk about, should you sell real estate, should you sell your property during a financial emergency. So after watching this particular video, I'll advise that you also check out that particular video. I shared a lot of tips in that video. So people might want to sell a property on distress because they need funds urgently. Now, the most serious reason might be that the property is under litigation, which is that there is a court case or dispute on that property, and the person just wants to take his or her loss and just sell off that property and transfer the trouble to the new buyer. So and there may also be other underlying issues on that property. Likely the person is not even the genuine owner of that property, or the documents for that property is not complete. So the CFO can be in view, the CFO can be in process, the execution can be in view, the execution can be in process, the allocation can be in view, the allocation can be in process, and all these can also warrant the reason why the person wants to sell this property on distress. First thing first, why would someone want to sell a property on distress? Now, there are several reasons why sellers or an investor might want to sell a property on distress, and one of them might be that the person needs cash, wants to sell as urgently as possible, the person is in a financial emergency or financial crisis, and we just want to dispose that property just to raise enough funds for them to sort whatever financial mess that they are in. Now, one of the previous videos or previous episodes that I've done also was talk about, should you sell real estate, should you sell your property during a financial emergency. So after watching this particular video, I'll advise that you also check out that particular video. I shared a lot of tips in that video. So people might want to sell a property on distress because they need funds urgently. Now, the most serious reason might be that the property is under litigation, which is that there is a court case or dispute on that property, and the person just wants to take his or her loss and just sell off that property and transfer the trouble to the new buyer. So and there may also be other underlying issues on that property. Likely the person is not even the genuine owner of that property, or the documents for that property is not complete. So the CFO can be in view, the CFO can be in process, the execution can be in view, the execution can be in process, the allocation can be in view, the allocation can be in process, and all these can also warrant the reason why the person wants to sell this property on distress. So let's look at the benefits or advantages of buying a property on distress. Now, if you are buying a property on distress, the most obvious reason is that you are buying cheaper. A land in a location is actually worth, in a location in Lagos is actually worth 25 million naira for a plot, maybe 60 by 120, and someone is offering to sell on distress at maybe 12 million or 15 million. So you can see that they're already slashing the price by half. So you are definitely going to be buying cheaper if you are buying on distress. That's just the most obvious reason. Now, the second advantage of buying a distressed property is that you can make higher return on investment. Just like the example I just made, a land is 25 million in location, you buy at 12 million for whatever reason or whatever issue that the property have, you are able to sort it, then you can also sell back at 25 million and make your profit. For example, now the land, maybe they are applying for the CFO, the CFO is in view, and that's why they want to sell their own at 12 million or at 15 million. You buy, you're able to perfect the CFO, definitely you are going to spend. So maybe you spend 5 million extra to perfect the CFO, now you've spent 20 million on the property, and then you can sell at like let's say maybe 28 million or even 30 million and get return on your investment. So a distressed property or distressed properties usually offer higher return on investment than even buying at the actual market value. So let's look at the challenges and the problems you are likely to face if you buy a property on distress here in Lagos. Now, the first problem with buying a distressed property is the risk on investment is higher. For example, let me go back to the previous example I've been using. The land is, the actual value of that location in Lagos is 25 million for a plot. Then someone is advertising 60 by 120 at 12 million or at 15 million because the CFO is in view or the execution is in process. So now if you buy that property at 15 million, what if the government did not give the CFO, or the government did not excise the land, they did not give the land execution? So usually there's always a higher risk attached on a distressed property than a normal investment, which is clearly understandable, because the rule of investment is the higher the risk on an investment, the higher the expected return on investments. So if you are buying the property on distress, the actual value is 50 million, you are buying it at 20 million, the actual value is 45 million, you are buying at 22 million, you can save a lot of money, you can save a lot of cost, but you should also be prepared also to face higher risk on that particular investment. Now, the second problem with distressed properties, which is like the reason why I usually avoid it, is high urgency. There is always an extreme pressure and extreme urgency on distressed properties, which is, for example, someone have a property worth 50 million and the person wants to sell for 30 million because the person needs funds urgently. The moment you show interest on that property, they're on your neck. Like, the agents or the sellers will be banging you with calls almost every day. How far, are you ready? The property is actually worth this value. Someone else can buy it. Someone else, two people just come to inspect it today. So the urgency on distressed properties, for you to make decision on the distressed property, is always very, very high. And that's why a lot of people fall into the trap of eventually buying a property that they end up regretting, because they bought on distress and it was urgent, they have to buy, and they're looking at it that, okay, this is a deal that they can't miss, this is the best deal that they can get, and then they put their money, and then they realize that the property has a court case, or the property there has been disputes on that property, or there have been some underlying issues on that particular property. So the urgency that you are going to be getting, be experiencing, be attracting the moment you showed interest on the distressed property is always very high. And the moment you fall in for that urgency and you don't do enough findings, enough diggings to actually ascertain the reason why they want to sell on a distress. Now, the third problem or the third challenge you are likely going to face if you buy a distressed property, particularly in Lagos, is high cost of perfection. Just like I explained earlier, a property with CFO in that location is 25 million. Now, one without CFO, without governor's consent, likely without even title, they only sell it at 12 million. You should know that you are going to spend a lot to perfect that property. If you have bought the one for 25 million, likely maybe you'll be spending like maybe 2.5 or 3 million to perfect it, and that's like 28 million. But if you are buying the one for 12 million or 15 million, but the property does not have title, or the title is in view, the title is in process, you might end up spending around like 10 million or even 12 million for you to finish that perfection on that property. So the cost of perfecting a property on distress is always very high. And if the property has a litigation, there's a court case on that property, and unfortunately for you, after you bought that property, the court gave or transferred ownership to another party, which means that you bought from the people that lost the case. And that means you have to now buy again from the people, the new owners of that property. So one thing is almost certain: if you are buying a distressed property, you are always going to spend more. So that money that you are avoiding or that you are running from buying the actually legit one, you are still going to spend it on the distress that you bought from. Now, the fourth problems with buying a distressed property is a problem with a lot of hidden truths. You just know that there will always be a lot of lies in what the sellers or their agents are telling you. The property is legit, it's genuine, it's this and that. They just want to sell because they are traveling abroad, the owner is relocating or whatever have you. They are always going to cook up a lot of stories just to hide a lot of truths and a lot of facts about that property. So always have it in the back of your mind. The moment that you want to buy a distressed property, whatever they are telling you, just know that 50% of that is a lie. There will always be so many hidden truths about distressed properties. So you can weigh it. Is the advantages or benefits worth it for you to actually buy a property on distress, or is the problems and challenges that you are going to face just too scary for you to face and you just have to leave it? Me personally, I don't do distressed properties, but if I want to invest as an investor, I can invest on a distressed property, and that's because real estate is my field. This is what I do. So I know the different workarounds and the different places I can go to just to jumpstart or skip some certain things. But this is not your field, and yet you are buying distressed properties. Well, it can work out, it might not work out, it just depends, it's just a gamble. So a lot of people make a lot of money from buying distressed properties. There are a lot of land in Ibejuleki that the families were like maybe possessing the CFO or possessing the excision. Investors buy from them. They buy on distress. So and they buy extremely very cheap. Then the investors can now perfect the titles on that property and then sell at a far higher value. So there are a lot of opportunities in buying distress. You just have to be careful, and it just have to be something that you are so much knowledgeable about. So in case you have any tips, any opinion, any different perspective, any question, also you can also drop that on the comment section. I always attend to it. I assure you 100% I always attend to it. And you can also reach us directly on my WhatsApp number on the screen if you need further consultations or you have further things that you want to inquire about. So as your property on the planet, your property advisor, your property consultant, don't forget, if you find this very educative, give us a thumb like, and I'm so much going to appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, come on, I've been sharing free guides and free advice for you, and you'll be learning. So kindly do subscribe and also be part of the channel. Thanks once again for your time. See you next time. You might end up regretting it.